I'm Graham,
And I'm Corinne.
and
And
we
we
are
are
Too
too
Talented. Welcome to the Too Talented podcast. Thanks for joining us again, hopefully. And today we're going to be talking about how to give notice appropriately and some of the things that you can expect while giving notice. This has become particularly pertinent because we both have had candidates most recently start or be ready to start and actually have to give notice. And we had a couple of interesting things happen during that time. So we'll talk about some of that stuff, but we'll talk about some of the best practices and things to keep in mind. Corinne, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Cocodona 250 happened a week ago, and
Yep.
I commentated 20 hours of the race total over 3 days. I was only there 3 days because I've done 5 days and
Only.
it's a lot. Yeah, it's a 6-day long race. So, yeah, so it was really cool. And I did some work from there in Arizona. I was based in Flagstaff during the race. If anyone listening to this podcast does not know or follow ultra running, Rachel Entrekin won for the third time in a row and won the entire race overall and ran 250 miles in 56 hours and 10 minutes, which is about a 13 and a half minute mile pace average for 56 hours.
It also goes up and down many, many mountains.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like a flat race. It's through the
40,000
desert.
40,000 feet of climbing.
Yeah, it's quite an accomplishment.
She only slept for 19 minutes, 7, 7, and 5. Yeah, 19 minutes total.
Wow.
Yeah, and it blew up everywhere. You probably saw it on like
Sports Center.
Good Morning America, ESPN. But my favorite reaction was the guy on ESPN who, after one of the announcers described it, said, "You know, Joe, that is both admirable and confusing." It was great. But that's ultra running for you. So yeah, it kind of blew up everywhere and has gone very, very mainstream, especially for an ultra race. So it was fun to be a part of that. AJW, Andy Jones Wilkins, let me do the call. You know, he let me handle her or be the only one calling in her final like turn around the corner and finish line, which was very nice of him. He thought it would be appropriate for a woman to do that. So I was honored to
Absolutely.
do that. And yeah, it was great. So Mountain Outpost, that was kind of like my focus last week. And then I came back and got a 24-hour stomach virus. That was not fun. But I did very little running while I was there. It's very hard to run and work and do all the things. But I'm kind of back on the train. And this weekend, we're going to our running Aravaipa Racing Team retreat in Colorado Springs. So we're going to do some really good runs down there, head out right after this pod.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. And we're trucking along with recruiting stuff and work too. But you have much more going on on the business side of things and a lot going on.
Yeah.
So I don't remember when we last talked.
A couple weeks ago.
What's happened in the last couple weeks with Stride staffing?
Yeah. So we were able to fill a director of HR, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts on Monday. And we also did SVP of Technology and AI, who starts the following Tuesday. So both candidates have given notice, hence one of the reasons for this episode.
Successfully given notice.
Successfully given notice. Until they walk in the door, there's always a question mark, but I'm feeling pretty good about both. And then I have a final interview going off on Monday for an internal auditor. And I'm waiting to start kind of an AI consultant for kind of a municipality in Colorado who's going to help them kind of take some of the things that are really manual process-wise and show them how AI could possibly speed things up. So that'd be kind of a neat thing. So yeah, and then I've got a couple of other jobs that are hopefully on the horizon, and yeah,
things are moving.
It's busy. It's great. I'm so excited. And, I said last night, I finally, I think for the first time can see kind of a pathway to pretty good success with this. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So giving notice. Want to dive in?
One last thing, just from a running and standpoint. I'm running a race, the North Fork 50K in 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. And someone messaged me the other day that a kind of famous person
Not kind of famous, a famous
a
person.
famous person is also running the race. Ben Gibbard, who is the frontman for the band Death Cab for Cutie, is also
and Postal
and
Service.
Postal Service is
and
also
another band, but I don't remember. Yeah, he has a third band.
so he is a pretty serious ultra runner,
Yes.
and he is playing a show in Denver, and he is also running the North Fork 50K.
Yeah, Graham has to compete against a rock star.
I do.
Basically, I think I'm gonna put my money on you for that one. I think you can beat Ben Gibbard. I
Me
don't
too.
know what kind of shape he's in. He's actually run Western States before.
Yeah, last year.
No, he
2 years ago.
crewed. He ran himself a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Last year, he paced Ryan Thrower, I do
Oh,
believe.
okay.
Because he's friends with Ryan Thrower from Free Trail. Yeah, he seems like a really nice guy. There's some podcasts out there but he's playing a show at Outside Days. There's an outside magazine, like festival / industry conference that I'll actually be at as well, end of the month, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I think. And he's playing a show. I think he plays on Friday. Actually, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He plays on Friday, and then I think he's running the race on Saturday. So our plan is to go, like, I don't know, go to the show, and then we'll make him really, really tired, and then he'll have to get up and
We'll
run
keep calling for encores.
Yeah, keep calling for encores,
Yep.
exactly. So that's going to be cool.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun thing, and I'll have to say hello to him. So
Maybe you could just start and run some early miles with him and then be like, see you later.
that's not really my style.
Okay, never mind. On the start line, you can say hello to him, or at packet pickup.
Yeah, totally.
We'll try to get a picture with him, maybe, or you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So on to giving notice. So giving notice, I remember last year when I did it, it's stressful. Of the whole process, I think it was the part that made me the most nervous. So, it's walking into, if you are going into an office and knowing that you're going to give notice and asking if your boss, hey boss, got a minute? The whole thing is just, it's challenging to do.
Mhm.
So hopefully we'll be able to give you kind of some background on some best practices, some things to be thinking about, some scenarios that we've seen as of late that have happened that, be good to be prepared for.
Yeah. Maybe we should start with the timing on it of when you should actually give notice.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Sorry,
So
I'm jumping around your
no, that's
outline.
okay. I moved quickly to it. So in a perfect world, so how it typically happens is you'll get a verbal offer from a company, and that's where they'll probably give you compensation. Actually, may just be compensation, and then
Start date.
maybe they try to nail down a
Yeah.
start date with you, but it's not vague, but it's less information that you're going to get when you get the written offer.
Mhm.
So our recommendation is to wait until you sign the written offer and go through the background check. I had a candidate one time who had a fairly common name, and I don't remember what it was, but when we did a background check, that background check got confused with another person with that name. And then there was some criminal history that became a problem. And we figured it out, but it definitely made the process of that notice period longer.
Mhm.
And I was very, very happy that he did not give notice until we cleared the entire thing. Because
Yeah.
you just never know some of the weird stuff that comes up. So definitely wait until that point.
Yeah, I think you can think about, planning it out, and then also, to the best of your ability. We're going to talk about best practices, but doing this in person is the ideal scenario, if at all possible. But yes, you're going to get a verbal offer, then you're going to get a written offer. I would sign the written offer as quickly as possible, and I would sign the authorization to conduct the background check as soon as possible so that you can get that rolling. And then some companies are going to do a drug screen. If that's the case, also jump on that as quickly as possible. You just want to do whatever you can to keep things moving along. And then you should be notified by the company as soon as both of those things clear. And that is the time when you can plan to give your notice. So traditional best practice standard procedure is to offer a 2-week notice.
Yep.
Sometimes if it is a executive level position or very senior level position, it might be 3 to 4 weeks.
Yep.
And you're going to probably want to have just talked through that with either the recruiter or the hiring manager, ahead of time of saying, I need to transition this stuff.
Right.
I have a bonus coming. I have a sales commission payment coming, something like that. So if it is longer than that, ahead of time, talk about that, and that should be reflected in your start date. And then, just know that start date could fluctuate a little bit. But one other thing to keep in mind I just had this scenario. If you are trying to cover yourself from an insurance standpoint, find out when your insurance is going to start with the new company. Some companies have a 30-day waiting period
or 90.
Or 90. Most often what I see is you're benefit eligible the first day of the month following your start date. So you just want to make sure you don't have a gap in insurance coverage.
Right.
When you give notice, you're probably going to be covered through the remainder of that month.
Right.
So here's the scenario. I have a guy who has eye surgery scheduled in June. He needs to start on May 29th so that he is covered on our benefits June 1, because he's going to give notice and his benefits at his current company are going to end on May 30th or May 30th.
31st.
31st. Yeah. So he needs to make sure that he is going to be able to be on our insurance. And so we started him on a Friday, May 29th, as opposed to Monday, which was June 2nd, just for that reason.
Yes. Well, and those are always great things to think through. And most times companies will really focus on kind of bending over backwards to accommodate to make sure that happened. One of the candidates that I recently placed had a bonus that was supposed to pay at a certain date, but then it got pushed. So we ended up shifting her start date back 2 more weeks. So she had a 4-week gap in between the time she gave notice and then the time she started to be able to accommodate that. And, a lot of times the manager's like, it's not ideal, but will they do it? Sure. Because it makes a lot of sense and it builds a lot of goodwill with the candidate. So if you've got a scenario going on where you're trying to kind of move start dates around, that's usually pretty possible.
Yeah, and if you're a candidate that's going to need to give a little longer notice, you can just offer and say, "Hey, is there anything I can do in those couple weeks?" You probably won't have access to systems, but you might be able to get some training information. You might be able to read up on your benefits, right? Read the employee handbook, things like that, like get access to a little bit of training material that, shows that you're trying to get going as soon as possible and be productive right when you come in.
Yeah. So we covered the timing. I think another thing that is important is to think through a little bit of the why giving notice matters and why taking it pretty seriously matters. And the biggest part of it is kind of the reputation that you've built, keeping that intact. If you give notice poorly, like, send your boss a text message saying I'm leaving, that is not going to be a good look. Or if you say, hey, I'm giving notice and I'm not giving notice, like I'm going to work 1 more day, tomorrow's my last day, see you later.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that really can burn a bridge. And why that's important is you never know, like in your, depending on what you do for a living, it's a small group of people that do it too, that you work with, that you'll see on a regular basis. And you may have a scenario where you go back to work for someone or go interview with someone that you previously worked for or worked with. And if you gave notice badly, that's the thing they're going to remember.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had a candidate give, when they left very poorly. It wasn't a candidate. It was a person that worked for me for a few years. And that is all I really remember. I mean, they were a great salesperson. They brought in all kinds of companies. They did really good work. And all I remember really is the way they gave notice, because they gave it so bad. It was like the worst case scenario of the way you could give notice. Yeah, I mean,
and
it's
you'll
really
never
important.
write that person a recommendation in the
Right.
future. You'll never endorse them.
Right.
You'll never,
You'll never be a reference.
And there's a lot of backdoor referencing that happens,
Yes.
with people down the road that may know somebody you used to work with, and them just unsolicited reaching out to that person. What was your experience working with them?
Right.
And you do not want that to be a negative one. So yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I had a old boss of mine interviewing someone I worked with who I knew was interviewed very, very well, but was not a good employee.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me, should I, what kind of, what should I be prepared for in the interview? What should I talk to this person about? And I just wrote 3 letters. run. Like there's no way you should hire this person.
Wow.
I didn't give any context, didn't do anything at all. I just said run.
Yeah.
Um, so
Dang.
that stuff happens.
Okay.
So yeah. Cool. So let's move into how to deliver notice and the
Okay.
3 different ways that you could do it, depending on what your scenario is in terms of remote work, hybrid, on-site, that type of thing. So the best option's in person. You agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
If at all possible. If you don't live in the same place as your supervisor, then I would set up a video call.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's the second best option. But in person, it's probably the most stressful way to do it. We were joking before we started, you walk into your boss's office and say, got a minute?
Don't do that. Schedule some time. Or ping them and just say, I'd like to set up a few minutes for you or to talk with you when is a good time.
Yeah.
Or say, I'd like to discuss something with you in our next one-on-one. I don't think that doing it completely
Cold.
Yeah.
That's how I did it last time.
You did? You're going to catch him off guard.
I think it catches them off guard in most cases. Maybe not always. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
scheduling time is probably a best practice. I think it's up to you. I know when I was having, when I was going to give notice, I was kind of like, I was sitting around like almost sweating, waiting to do it. Just like, oh my God, I got to get this like off my chest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's some of that too.
Okay.
Some anxiety. And then, if you can't do any of that stuff, if you have to do it over the phone is fine. If that's the only option you've got, don't do it over text message.
Don't do it via email.
Don't do it via email.
Yeah.
You will want to send
eventually.
a follow-up
Yes.
after,
Yes.
saying exactly what, you are leaving, here's your end date, etc.
And there's a good chance that they'll require that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So, for legality,
Yep.
whether you're asked that from the hiring manager or someone down the road, they're going to need something in writing to put in their documentation.
Yep. So best practices on how to do this. The best thing that I think you can do is keep it very short and very sweet. So really kind of like starting the conversation with, hey, I really appreciate the opportunity that you've given me here and I've enjoyed the time. However, I have decided to make a move to another company. And so I need to give you my 2 weeks notice. And then that's it. Shut up. I don't want to continue on about why or anything. Let them ask questions. Always keep it as positive as you possibly can, even if it's a negative environment and you're basically running from somewhere. You want to keep it as positive as possible to make sure you keep that relationship intact. Make sure that you leave them feeling okay about how this whole thing went. I think it's really important.
Yeah, you focus on like a lot of the positives. Yeah, like you said, enjoyed working there, enjoyed the opportunities I had, m- all of those things. Like you were there for a period of time, and so it was good, and it was beneficial to both of you, mutually beneficial for some period of time. So I think you can reiterate those things, which makes it a little bit easier also then for the hiring manager or the HR person to um to take. Kind of think about it from the other side. If you were being let go, that is how it would happen as well. It would be very limited to there being any additional discussion.
Right. Be very direct.
It'd be direct, but it would also be not, it is very much like a business conversation. There's no emotion in it. Even if you're being let go for performance, like they probably won't say that. You're being, unfortunately, you're being like, this is going to be your last day with the company, or we're going to be terminating your employment. That's it. So kind of think about that same, and there's reasons that happens. So think about the same thing from the other side.
And if you get asked why, it's better to focus on the opportunity that you're going to, as opposed to why you're really leaving.
Yeah.
because all those things are typically going to be negative or spun negatively. So you don't want to say, "Oh, this company's a disaster," or "the communication sucks here," or leadership seems to be incompetent.
Or I'm
I'm
underpaid.
underpaid. You guys don't appreciate me.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
want to say any of that stuff.
Yeah, like, you could write those things down and then turn them into what is the positive of the new company.
Right.
I have an offer that I kind of can't refuse. I have a really big opportunity for a promotion. I'm gonna be taking on more responsibility. I have
Yep.
more flexibility. I have, I really am attracted to the culture of the new company, those things.
Absolutely. Yep. So here's a few scenarios that you may run into if you give notice, and you may get multiple of these in one conversation. Oh, the first one is the counteroffer. So, I mean, every time I've ever given notice, I've been asked, "What would it take to keep you?" And my answer has always been nothing. There's nothing you can do. I'm moving on for what I feel like is a better opportunity. But they've always said it. And you can have people go as far as making you an offer. "Hey, what if we paid you $30,000 more? What if we allow you to work from home 100%? What if all the what ifs."
Yeah.
And it's usually because they're taken off guard. They weren't expecting this. You may be a critical component to something in the business that's really important to the business, and they don't want to lose you. Um, it's easier than doing a full job search for someone else to be able to backfill you.
Yeah,
So
the
there's
manager might feel like they're failing because they're losing you.
yep, we actually have that because my next scenario kind of covers
Oh,
some of
sorry.
that.
Sorry, jumping ahead.
And we've talked about this plenty of times before. Counteroffers generally are not a good idea, unless you get something where there's a major misunderstanding involved. Like, I expected to be promoted, you guys never promoted me, and it's like, okay, you're right, and we were actually waiting to do X, Y, and Z to promote you, but we're happy to promote you now. So,
And I would say whatever you do, whatever they say, don't make a decision right then.
right, for sure, for sure.
You probably shouldn't take a counter anyways, but if you're even gonna consider it, do not commit to anything on that call.
Yeah,
And if they're gonna say they're gonna do something like that, then you need to say, "Well, I need it in writing," kind of
absolutely.
situation
Yep.
before I can even consider it. But, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so there really is not very many scenarios where I think a counteroffer is a good idea, but
Yeah, we talked about that on another pod of
yeah,
the risks of potentially taking one and why you shouldn't. And then again, go back to why you went through the whole job search and why you got to this point in the
yep,
first place. And have any of those things changed? Likely not.
right, for sure. Second scenario is your boss gets angry, and this isn't super common, but I've heard it a number of times. And in
Mhm.
fact, one of the people that recently gave notice, who are starting a new role that I placed them in, um, their boss spent an hour. Just losing their mind apparently, over that this you were critical to this company, and I can't believe you would just walk away from us after so long, and going to another company, who do you think you are? I mean, just laundry list.
Let
And
me
then
guess, HR was not on that call?
HR was not involved in that call. However, something kind of a funny thing, HR sent him an email about an hour later asking what it would take to keep him, and he was like, "Well, now? Are you kidding me?" So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a scenario that's possible. So, I think in that instance, you just stay calm,
Yeah.
stick to your guns, and don't commit to anything, and just say, "This is what I'm doing. I'm sorry that it upsets you, but
And
this is."
it's hard. I mean, the tears are shed in these conversations
Yeah,
often. And I've been in scenarios where it's difficult and it's hard not to let emotion get caught. And I have failed at keeping emotion out of it. But yeah, I think just try to stay kind of a bit calm and collected through it.
yeah. I mean, the last thing you want to do is get into a shouting match with your boss,
Mm.
right? I mean, even if they're shouting, no, it's, never going to be in your best interest to match that. So, scenario three is kind of in the same vein, but it's slightly different. The boss feels betrayed. Like, this is especially the case if you maybe had a previous relationship with them. and maybe they brought you over from somewhere or something like that, you could have them feel a little bit like, "Oh, why are you doing this to me?" Like you said, "This makes me look bad." It's usually from a place of it's a little bit of a selfish place, but you still can get that scenario. So I think, your best bet is to same thing, stay real calm. Tell them, it's not you, it's not you, it's me. Um,
I think too, if things get super heated or you're getting upset or you're getting anxious, you can remove yourself from the situation too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You can say, okay,
You
you're
so you can
clearly
say,
upset.
"I'm gonna take some yeah, I'm gonna step away for a minute." Like, you don't have to stay there.
Right,
Either way, if you think you're gonna have a bad reaction and you don't wanna have a bad
right.
reaction, you can leave.
Right. You
Yeah.
say, I'm gonna go now and get a coffee. I'll be
Yeah.
back in a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you've now given notice. What are they gonna do? Fire you? So
It's true.
so you can really do whatever you want to make sure you leave yourself in the best place mentally,
Mhm.
and don't get into a scenario where you're making a bad decision by yelling at your boss. There is a scenario where I've had a couple times, actually me personally,
I have 2.
where you get very little reaction.
Very little reaction.
Yeah,
Yeah, because think about this. This is doing this whether you're giving in the notice or the employer is telling you your position's been eliminated or whatever. It is probably gonna elicit a fight or flight response, and there's also a freeze response.
right.
So fight, flight, or freeze is probably going to be one of the responses to this happening, and so that whole just kind of nonchalance is one way that some people might respond to stress.
Yep, for sure. Or, maybe they don't have a strong reaction, but they're going to process it and have a bigger reaction later.
Mhm,
Um, and I think for you giving notice, that it can actually come off as feeling a little cold,
mhm.
which it's hard to deal with on the candidate side.
Yeah.
I did have to let someone go one time and they got really emotional, and I didn't. I stayed very, very calm, and that made them angry that
Mhm,
they were so emotional and I wasn't because I wasn't matching. And it's just one of those things that's like, I'm not going to get really emotional over this.
mhm.
So yeah, it's definitely something that you shouldn't take personally. It just may be the way the reaction is. And then um, two more scenarios, and this one is particularly important from, well, I've seen it especially with more junior candidates. So let's say a junior candidate gives notice, their boss says, okay, I need to make some calls, figure some stuff out. I'll get back with you. And then you get a senior leader who comes down and probably does something like takes you out to lunch or takes you out to happy hour and really kind of paints a golden staircase picture of what you mean to this firm and what your future here is, and maybe you didn't know, and those types of things. Those scenarios, I think one, you have to be it's particularly delicate because this is a person that you want to keep on your in your court for later, who maybe you work with again when they leave there and become like a senior leader somewhere else.
Mhm,
So it's a tightrope walk of sticking to your guns and saying, I am going to make a move, but maybe kind of hear them out.
mhm.
Make sure that you give them kind of like the respect that
Yeah.
that you're going to listen to what they have to say. And then, a lot of times what they'll say is, hey, you don't need to make a decision right now, but why don't you just think about it? So you just say, yeah, I know, I'll think about it. And then what your best bet would be at a later date, maybe something in writing that says, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time that you invested in taking me out and to really discussing my career. At this point, I have decided to, to make this move, but I really do appreciate it. So something short and sweet, but kind of a thank you note for that.
And I hope to stay in touch with you in the
Sure.
future.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes that call or meeting, but usually it's a call, I think I would say, more than, like, fully taking you, like, to lunch. That's pretty that's pretty big, move, but also might be done by somebody who's better at this than
Right.
your current
Very
manager.
smooth.
Like,
Yeah.
I've had that scenario where I've told my manager I'm leaving, and they just said, "Okay," and then I got a phone call a couple hours later from
Right.
someone who I had a better relationship within the company
Yeah.
who asked, who wanted to probably get more information from me about why and try to convince me not to
Yeah.
or whatever it is. So yeah, just and so like yeah, just like you're saying, maintain your relationship with those people. It's okay for you to tell them that you really enjoyed working with them. Like it's
Yep.
a chance for you to kind of connect with them and say that you hope maybe your paths will cross again in the future, whatever.
Definitely. One other thing just to make sure that you don't do is really there is not a circumstance that I can think of where it benefits you to throw your boss under the bus with this person.
Agreed.
And they may ask. In fact, when I gave notice of my last company, I had the CEO call me
Yep.
and just ask point blank,
Yeah.
is it because, you're not happy with X person?
Yeah.
That wasn't the case, and I told him that, but even if it had been the case, I probably wouldn't have mentioned it because I don't want it to blow up in my ex-boss's face about why I'm leaving, and so I'm protective of that person even if it was the person that I'm leaving as my boss because, I'm not getting along or whatever. It does not benefit you to tell people that.
Yeah, I think this is also another important thing. When you're giving notice, you need to give it to your direct manager.
Yes.
Don't talk to your manager's manager. Don't talk
Yeah.
to the CEO. Don't talk to your peer. Don't talk to HR. Go directly to your direct manager.
Yep.
If your direct manager wants to get HR involved, they will.
Yep.
But this is something that you need to first tell to your direct manager. And
Yes.
then if there's other people in the company who you want to tell after that, that's fine.
Yeah, for sure. And let your manager kind of direct that. Like I had, when I gave notice, I was asked to keep it under wraps at least for a week
Mhm.
of my 2 weeks notice. And I said, yeah, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
And then I was able to start
Because they
talking to
want to
people.
communicate it.
They want to be able to
Yeah.
communicate it and control the messaging, which I think is good. One last thing in terms of scenarios that we should cover is if you're in sales or recruiting or you're in maybe
Leadership,
leadership.
executive
Yep.
leadership,
If you deal with really sensitive information, all those types of things.
finance,
Sometimes finance, yeah.
or accounting sometimes, yeah.
Could be. You could be terminated immediately.
Yeah.
And it's not because, they don't like you or you're not doing, they're not happy with you or any of those types of things. They just don't want to have the risk of someone who's leaving having access to that sensitive information. So you could get walked immediately.
Mhm.
I remember when I gave notice from a previous company, I wasn't even allowed to go back to my desk
Yeah.
or say anything,
Yeah.
that was a little disappointing because I'd been there for a long time, like 12 years. But and they probably could have handled it better.
Mhm.
But I was working with a leader who was new, and I think they were pretty taken aback and didn't know what else to do. So they just said, "Hey, wait out in the lobby. I'll go grab your stuff."
Mhm.
And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, be ready for that. Always offer the 2 weeks, even if you know you're gonna be
Yep.
terminated immediately, because that is the respectful and right thing to do.
Yep.
And then do whatever you can. I think you're gonna go into this next, but do whatever you can to help with with that transition.
Yes. So I think best practice is you want to leave them in a good place. Even
Mhm.
if you're not happy, even if you're making a move because you just got to get out of here, don't like don't leave people hanging on stuff that's really important that maybe only really transition stuff, and that's important, and really be good about grabbing information for people that they're going to need to go forward, put together like a plan on your own of stuff that they need to follow up on your behalf, projects that you're working within, what needs to be handled, all those types of things. I think that period of time, you sometimes hear people who like totally check out, and it's just not very fair because what'll end up happening is your peers will be the ones that have to pick up the slack or your direct boss, and that sucks for them.
Mhm.
So making sure you do a good job of that, I think that's a really important thing.
And especially if it's like you are in sales or you do something customer facing, you know, you wanna take care of those customers. Those customers might be your customers in the future.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
think about just maintain the relationships all around, whether it's internal or external.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think the whole conversation, just to kind of wrap up, is stressful. I mean, it's one of the most stressful conversations that you, I think, have in business is
Mhm.
telling somebody that you're leaving. And you may walk out of there feeling, who knows? It could be a lot of different feelings. You might be more emotional than you expected. You might have some thoughts around, oh my gosh, I'm really going to leave,
Mhm.
even especially if you've been somewhere for a long time. There could be a number of different emotions that you have. So, letting yourself have those emotions and kind of, go through it, I think is really important, and also leaving yourself some time, maybe to talk to your spouse or to someone you trust just about how it went and really be able to kind of deep dive it. As a recruiter, I always want to talk to my candidate as soon as they give notice because I want to be that person to kind of support them if they need it. About half and half. Some need it, some don't.
Mhm.
But sometimes, you talk to people and are like, oh my gosh, that was really, really hard. My boss started crying. It was really emotional. And, then you're there to kind of help them through that piece. So making sure that you have someone to talk to afterwards is really important. And maybe you need it, maybe you don't.
Yeah, I agree. Also, just take care of yourself because if you think about this, regardless of whether you're making the decision or not, you're kind of going to mourn the loss of that job. It is a change, and there is going to be a period of, I guess you could call it kind of like grief because it's something you've been doing for the last number of years. It's been your day to day. And so, like, totally normal to have kind of those feelings of maybe just like loss of something, um, you know, in between then and when you start the new position. So just like honor that and kind of take it easy on yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Any final thoughts?
I think that it it's a good idea to email the people that you worked with in that job at some point in time and just tell them goodbye. They may throw you a lunch, they may throw you
Yep.
a goodbye happy hour, something like that to tell, but I think it's important to just think about everybody that you interacted with and appreciated kind of being, you know, friends with professional or working with professionally and like close the door with them as well of, hey, I'd love to stay in touch with you in the future. Here's
Right.
my personal email.
Yep.
Let's stay in touch. It's been great working with you. I think that's an
Definitely.
important step as well after all is said and done.
I very much agree. Yep, I think that's it's really important and a really good way to handle it and a way to say goodbye.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times, especially if you're working with people in multiple offices, you're not going to see in person. Maybe you weren't close enough to give them a phone call, but having them know, you said goodbye, they've got your email address, those types of things, that can mean a lot to people.
And still don't go bash the company to them, you know.
Yeah,
Tell you can be open with them on to as to why you're leaving. But no good's really gonna come from you being super negative about it. So yeah, I would just kind of keep that, you know, some of those things to yourself, but stay, yeah, yeah. I stay in touch with a lot of people that I've worked with in the past who are now at a lot of different companies.
absolutely. And then that's your network that you can lean on if you ever need to make a move again.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining Too Talented. If you liked the episode, subscribe, give us a like, give us a comment. And if you've gotten this far and you've got some horror stories from when you gave notice and some of the reactions they had, definitely let us know. We'd love to see those. Thanks.